back. So that's where we are now. Spirit. Ooh, we'll see. But anyway, before I start, two announcements I want to make. Don't forget. Well, first one is the brilliant Australian comic Steve Hughes is playing at 4 Dame Lane in Temple Bar in Dublin. It's above the loft. It's a beautiful venue. I've been there myself. And he's playing there on April 14th. So get you down, get your do. Uh, it's a beautiful venue. And 3, it's being filmed for so you can say, well, when you show boys at this gig, you know, bursting my shite laughing. So that's Steve Hughes at 4 Dame Lane, upstairs, in Temple Bar on April 14th. I won't be there because I'm a gig of my own to do, unfortunately. And Steve has been abusing me because of it, and I am going to call Correctional on him. Now, after the gig. Now, the other announcement is, don't forget the Weekend Strange tonight, Timothy's show with myself and Jason co-hosting, or as guesting, and that one tonight, later on BR3 channel. So, foreboding is, I spent the last few days watching all the kind of tinfoil psycho fucking videos about, like, you know, what's in the needlecraft. And I've come to the conclusion that there's too much of this stuff now coming out for not to be something to it. It seems to be causing LC. It seems to be causing that thing. And it might explain a lot. Now, we were supposed to have mandatory this, that, everything been dropped. I can't fucking believe that I'm still talking about the Rona after all this time. But what this is, that is like, there was two wars, right? There was the war to protect anyone and save anyone and help anyone who needed protection. And we've done that. The second war is for us to look on in amazement and say, thank fucking Christ I didn't go down that fucking road. And if you did, let's hope we'll find a way to fix you. Remember, I don't judge anyone who got needlecraft. And I wish the people who are extremely pro needlecraft showed the same courtesy to me that I showed to them. But apparently not. And an example of this is there was an Irish message board that I frequent, not under my real name because it's hobby stuff. And we're talking about public policy and government in relation to a construction issue, a public infrastructure issue. And I said something, someone had said the post, come on, the government is stupid, but it doesn't do evil totalitarian things. And this was about that the booster, the foghorn leghorn was being rolled out. And I had mentioned that, well, if the government is all as pure as the driven snow, then how come you're living in a pharmacological police state? Now, there was this guy who never posts on the forum, shows up, and he puts down Jesus wept and rolling eye emoticons, and then a laughing emoticon like I was a nutjob. And I said, who's this fucker? He never posts on the group. This message board, it's made up of all different message forums with many topics from political to hobbies to everything. And I thought, I say click on the side, you can see other person. And he'd been on that group for about 8 years. That forum, that message for about 8 years. And in the last couple of months, he'd literally been hunting people who were skeptical about the whole Rona needlecraft thing, liking them online. It was really fucked up shit. And attacking them. And then talking about how people who are anti-needlecraft, are all mentally ill and are us all problems, and they're all Nazis. The worst kind. I found out that he was a civil servant. I could tell because he was posting civil servant, whinging about he wants more money all the time, like a typical civil in the civil service boards. Well, he has vanished off the face of the earth and has done for a few months. Gone. He's gone. I can only surmise he's either dead or he has cognitive impairment from the foghorn leghorn or something like that. That's a bit of a fucking leap of, fate, a leap there. And I said, well, it gets even more interesting. You can see people can thumb up or, like the comment. And you can see who on the message board liked the comment. So when he slagged me off, he got about 8 people liking the comment. These included one guy who is practically a moderator on the group. He posts 3 or 4 posts a day, and he's very conservative. I think he works for the government as well as a civil servant. Not particularly a bastard or anything like that. Very polite and very knowledgeable about the subject I'm talking about. He hasn't posted for about 6 weeks. Where's he gone? And the others, only of the 8 that thumbed the comment up, only 2 are left continually posting now. 6 have vanished, including the guy who posted all long-term posters on the mess forum. Where the fuck gone? It's now been absolutely confirmed that millennials are now the highest mortality rate of any demographic in society, more than elderly people. And what's that about? Again, I'm only saying, I'm not going the full hog. I'm just saying, well. Another thing too is mentioned to me is the reason why they had lifted all the a very intelligent woman said this to me. The reason why I had stopped all the restrictions, even though right now infection rates are at their very highest, is job done. Job done. So judging by the statistics, about 3 billion, 3 billion people on this planet have been needlecrafted, jabberwocked, right up to the foghorn leghorn. All these videos I watched, when I say I was being facetious and sarcastic when I said tinfoil whack job videos, because they were their citations and their facts were from medical places, doctors, scientists, and so on, who can't go public because, if they do go public after or mocked or struck off the license. Now, worst case scenario, they're all dying of needlecraft LCDA. Best case scenario, they're all dying of needlecraft LCDA. This would explain so much. Suppose, say, a country like Ireland, and it's not just Ireland, it's every country in Europe, are taking in refugees from the Ukraine. And it turns out that most of them are actually Slavics. And there's no vetting or checking. Come on all in. That would be an ideal way to offset a massive population reduction. You wouldn't notice it as much. Because if you have the government here to bring in 200,000 refugees and permanently settle them, well, then you wouldn't notice the 200,000 nationals in the country who gone to see their needlecraft god. Germany Politicians in Germany, 9 million refugees. That's the Irish number and percentage of their own pod. 9 million are gone to Valhalla or wherever. And this explains so much. This other very clever lady also said to me, this also explains the vegan thing. We all know that vegans die. That veganism is basically a dietary form of suicide. The evidence for this is overwhelming. Might get away with it for 30 years. Might get away with it for 40 years. You might get away with it for 50 years. But you will die from your inability to fight infection because the lack and other things, and mental illness because of the lack of the vitamin, the B12. So, what great way to compromise the immune systems of the target audience reduction than to put them on a diet that can't fight infection. Sanctify me with your soy latte, sanctify me with dairy. And who are most likely to be the ones following that diet? Millennials. And who are the ones who are a persona non grata on this planet at an increasing rate? Millennials. They were also sterilized and made non-traditional sexual roles, should we say. And so they would guarantee there wouldn't be any offspring left behind for the state to care for if Skylar, the IT guy, who's a vegan, has his 3 boosters and goes to IPA land in the clouds. Or Pandora, the climate change activist, didn't have any kids because she thought it would be bad for the climate, gone to the Great Fu Mountain in the sky. Are we developing clarity here? They wouldn't have kids, even though most of them are in their 30s now, and therefore the state would take care of a slew of orphans. This is also why they wanted kids on the transubstantiation of the divine needlecraft. Sanctify me with your vaccine, sanctify me, put the love of Christ into my arm. Forget about the side effects, civil servants, they know best. Sanctify me with your vaccine, sanctify. And that's what it was like. It was like a fucking down-home gospel religious episode, how they sold that fucking thing. They launched people into other realities. The first one I ever saw was the RT report on over 70s were the first ones to. They're all dead now, every last one of them. The ones that I bet the ones they filmed in the Helix in Ballymun and Dublin, who were getting their first, needlecraft, they're all dead now. All dead, or they've got a few weeks away. And is it deliberate? I don't know. It's very easy to say that this is, this is still great. We do a really good job. We do a really good job. We reduce the population. That guy. And the next pandemic. It's very easy to believe that. And then when you see the World Economic Forum hiring these transhumanist maggots who are saying that humans will be obsolete after 2023 because there'll be no work for them to do, because it'll be all done by robots and machines. It's very easy. They just trimming the herd. They're just culling the hair. It's very easy. I don't know for certain. I really don't. What I do know is, and with all my heart and for absolute certain, that not only those of us who abstain dodged a bullet, we fucking dodged a machine gun. And of course, this is what Klaus Schwab leaked out in one of his documents, where he said, "We have raised a world of people where education has failed them, and all they do is follow orders and can't think for themselves." Can't think for themselves. And we need people in the future who can be skeptical, creative, and are willing to think for themselves rather than fulfill orders. Well, guess what? Who were the ones who did think for themselves and say, "No fucking way are you putting that thing in"? Do you know anybody like that? Do they tend to be Maverick thinkers? Do they tend to be free thinkers? And I'm not talking about an artist who's waiting on a government grant, who worships everything the government says to them and was the first out to roll up their sleeve to be sanctified by a COVID Christ. Nope. I'm talking about people like you and me, the fuckwits, the crazy whack jobs. We don't have to worry about going to the tofu mountain in the great beyond. We're fine. No, so we go. Most of us have gotten the coof, and as a result, like the other viral infection we've got in our lives, we built up our immune system through herd immunity, natural herd immunity, and everything was fine, just like all the rest of our lives. Well, right now we have record people in Irish hospitals with the coof, and 99.9% of them will be needle crafted. The needlecraft was deliberately designed, I think, to be a catastrophic failure at the very least. Why? Because the whole thing was voluntary. I was told from the beginning they're not going to tie anyone down and, give them the transubstantiation of the divine needle after them. They weren't going to do it. It had to be voluntary. And they did that, making it into this. And just like any religion, any evangelical religion, and this is very much what this was, you get zealots like the guy on that message forum I told you about, who was going around literally hunting people who had doubts or concerns about the whole Rona thing, including the needlecraft. Well, he's a martyr now, apparently. It would seem to be that he's a martyr for the religion. And use the same old evangelical playbook. There isn't a person on this earth who can say, "I took the needlecraft and now I'm sick and it's fault." No, because you willingly took it. Media and medical journals like The Lancet and John Hopkins and many other highly established scientific, medical, and pharmacological peer-reviewed warned of the dangers of needlecraft. It was not hidden that the test would be going on till 2024, so it wasn't fully tested. It wasn't hidden that Pfizer wanted the information to be hidden for 5 years. That was not hidden. That was all very easy to find. You could have found it, and you could have look at that. But no, you didn't. You find me with your vaccine because you wanted to be just like everyone else. And believe me, I've seen it all my life. There's a terrible price in trying to fit in and be a normie. Normies live in perpetual terror of people not approving of them, because they're not normie enough. So they do everything in society, including things they don't like, don't understand, or don't want to do, and pretend they want to do it for the simple reason they live in absolute existential paralyzing terror of someone talking about them for being different. We're fuckheads like you and I. We've always been different all our lives. We didn't give a fuck because we were happy inside. We were contented inside. And there's a lot to be said for being a maverick, an outsider, a rusty wheel. There's a lot to be said for that. And there's a lot to be enjoyed in life from that. Because you're suddenly, because you have to remember the normies, that now the NPCs are different biological robots. They will just walk into, because they're just robots of being honest. But a lot of the normies would have still done it. And why? Because they were terrified of the neighbors talking about them. Now, I have all the sympathy in the world for people who were coerced into it by their employers, who were coerced into it by other people and didn't want to do it. And they did it for either love, laugh at them, if I feel sorry, I'm laugh at them. But, having said that, don't lose your compassion for ones who were coerced into it and didn't want it. Only the NPCs, you don't care about them because they don't have any kind of, there's nothing that isn't soul. You know, that's me being, being sent to fucking 6 o'clock news, mainstream news, afterlife. That's not even human, it's a robot. You don't think about them. Normies, you can you imagine like living in a state of extent being in the gang. Well, that's what the normie is like. They will go to bed at night in a state of paralyzing fear. Did I do everything that was required for me today to be accepted by my peers? I hope I didn't do this. I hope I didn't. I hope they don't. Oh, I'll make amends for what I did. It's just, that's literally how they live. Okay, they're fools. They're profane, willing fools. You can't feel sorry for them, but you do feel sorry for the ones who are coerced into it out of love. Anyone who says, jab me up, bitch, they did it to be like everyone else. Fuck them. That's stupid. That's Darwinism in action. Now, that's what we're dealing with now. That we're dealing with people are just fucked, and I don't know what to say really. I'm glad I didn't take it. I'm glad you didn't either. And there's something inside us that stopped us from it. Even fellas like me who weren't per se anti inoculations, not per se any philosophical reason. It was like, whoa, not this thing. No way, no way could that be like that. That's another thing, right? Allergies. I got my allergies now because it's this time of the year when all the tree pollen comes. And do you run out and get, you just deal with it. And that was the whole thing with the coof. Just deal with it. Old people die of, and sick people with cancer, God love them, they die of these things. But it's just, so anyway, this is also why I think a lot of countries are doing censuses right now. They're trying to see offset, and they want to know they want to see how they accommodate the replacements. And the replacements are not being brought in to kill your ethnicity or anything like that. The replacements purely being brought in to supplement the law of the population. That's what that's about. Simple as that. And so it's not noticeable. Now, we've got a situation now where you have the Florida Open, tennis Open. The tournament has practically been cancelled. It hasn't. It practically is. It's farcical now, because 50 of the tennis players dropped out during the tournament. They barely walk across the courts. In the semi-final, 2 stars didn't play in the final. Didn't play in the semi-final because they could barely move. You're not allowed to say why, and we all know why. So, wow, this is what happened. The herd was cold, and they wanted to keep us. We are the ones mentioned as the survivors on the grounds. That's us. That's how it was done. How it was done was that. And I don't know what else to say, except it was like, no, it wasn't that you can't say nobody didn't warn you. Now, at the same time, too, as this thing has progressed and become increasingly unhuman to me, I still believe that it's something to do with cosmic forces, whether I don't know what it could be. I'm not saying interference by it could be, or interdimensionals, or up in space, or this is a core story for something else, like a comet, they're killing them now so they don't have to deal with them when the fucking thing goes. I don't know. I'm just, I'm more than ever, I'm convinced that non-human forces operate and run this planet. I don't know what they're not asking what they are. When I think about it, and I kind of my sort of like insights in my subconscious, I see a gas or a plant that has a kind of a pathological malevolence about it. That's what I see. An intelligence that's in the form of a plasma or a gas or a mist, and it's very Lovecraftian, very Lovecraftian. And that's probably why, from an early age, I was fascinated by the whole Lovecraftian thing. It's because it's getting me ready for this moment. Everything that we've done all our lives has gotten us ready for this battle. And it was a battle that was very spiritual and very psychological and also very cultural. The things that we've been used to growing up has helped us to avoid it. That's why, I was talking about the comics the other day. And I think it was even things like those of us who took a very deep interest in the stories and certain stories in comics, like Judge Dredd is a totalitarian story. So, that's what we were kind of getting ready for. Then the artist was subconsciously channel that. Someone also asked me, was there any, they never did in business. There was comics released that catered it. And the thing was that once 2000 AD released Slain, about the Celtic warrior, and who worship, who worshipped the goddess Danu, and it was all Celtic mythology and everything. They kind of tapped in and got the Irish market then. It's 2000 AD, kind of when they released Slain, they took over the Irish market basically. As they gave Ireland it's a high level comic. It was a strip in 2000 AD, but it's also been released independently. And you want to go back further, Conan the Barbarian, he that's Celtic mythology too, so that was kind of already out there. But no, there was no Irish comics that lasted. They all failed. The British and the American comics dominated the Irish market. But yeah, but there you go. All those cultural things, Lovecraft, listening to horror stories, reading Dennis Wheatley novels, watching Hammer horror film, Quatermass fiction films, taking interest in conspiratorial things, paranormal 40 and things. Week and Strange tonight at 9 a.m. You can watch it live on Facebook and then later on the group. All that stuff was preparing for this moment in time. This was bringing us to this point. Our subconscious was tapping into these things and saying, pay attention, this will mean something one day. Greg Moffat, who I've done a 10-year anniversary show with him, recently posted a scene from Tom Baker's Doctor Who doing with Davros, the creator of the Daleks, and it was like, there it is right there. There's transhumanist psychotics right there. That's the world we live in now. Here we are. I feel sick for people whose family members got it, and I'm not, hopefully you'll live for years to come, just like people who have things like HIV and AIDS have lived for years and years even after infection. But if you're a soy boy Viate type, you're in a bad place. And you won't notice. People say, well, if everyone drops dead, you'll notice in society. They won't notice it because, one, just like all these, they can't bring themselves to even acknowledge that all these sports stars are dropping dead, even in their own neighborhood. They won't sports players. Even that, they won't accept it. But also, there won't be any great loss of population. Services still work and things will still happen and hospitals will still open. But it'll be all because refugees brought in to supplement those who were lost. So it's very interesting that this flood of refugees from the east suddenly happens after costing too much when they knew economic catastrophes was coming, which is coming of food shortages, the lot. Uh, Putin called their bluff and threw their plans out into chaos. And here we are in a situation now where it's an almighty mess for them, but they don't care. That's why they're all resigning. This is why in Ireland right now, when we had almost no one in hospital, it was like World War III here. We had like tremendous lockdown and everything. Now that we have the highest numbers of people infected, hundreds of thousands, and the highest number of people in hospital, the government says, I don't feel it. Fuck the mask. And that's because faith complete. Look after yourselves, sanguine gnosis, and love you all. And that's right in Dublin. And at 7:30 p.m., April 21st, free admission. A lecture called "It's Spirit from Waterford" and stuff like that. So get there as early as possible because the hall holds 100 and something. And I mean, I'll be happy. I'm not expecting more than like 24 or something to show up, but we'll see. But that's okay. Love all you fucking bastards.